Yeah.
4:30 PM. I'll call the meeting for public work to order. Don't have any guests.
I don't know if we want to do this now or later, but Josh's left or my right over here is Isaac Dolan. He's our new staff engineer here at the Village of Weston. So you might have seen Ike in the audience previously as part of the Clark Dietz team, but he has come to join us here at the village now.
Congratulations, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to be here.
Isaac, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah, so,
Please.
what was it?
Please.
Oh. So I have about 13 years in design or infrastructure design. Essentially started REI, was there for a few years, then went to AECom. Most of that time has been in highways and roads, and storm and utility design, but with some construction oversight as well. So variety on the consultant side for the last 13 years. But yeah, been wanting to come to the public side to do more on that, in that sector, and haven't really had the opportunity till now. So I was really fortunate to have this opportunity. So thank you.
You're licensed, right?
Yes, I'm licensed.
Well, welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, Ike,
We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
as far as village projects, he was involved with the design for the Crestwood Acres project, the Apache project, Northwestern Ave.
When I first got out of school, I was on
Schofield Ave.
Schofield Ave out to J when
Yeah.
I was at REI doing construction inspection there. So yeah, a lot of Western projects, just with different firms over the years.
Yep, and then he was doing the design for the Jelnik and East Jelnik projects that are currently underway, so.
Northwestern, which part of it?
The repaving that was done last year,
Right.
the quick turnaround we had to do.
It was a
So
pretty quick turnaround.
Ike worked with, Clark Dietz was subbed by EMCS to do a lot of the design on that one, so.
So we're gonna redo it or what?
No, it was repaved last year.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what about that stretch we missed?
That wasn't missed, that's not in the village of Weston, that's in the city of Wausau.
I call it miss.
Called no man's land.
No,
It is no man land, you're right.
yeah, no, that was discussed with the city of Wausau at the time, and they did not want to partake in their cost share for that, so
Well, that's good.
they left it, yeah.
All right. Anything else? Thank you. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Zagami,
Here.
Hardinger excused, Hubbard,
Here.
Lopes Serrero excused, Mumper.
Sure.
Jasper is not on the line yet, right?
He is not, no.
Okay. We don't have any public comment. Item 5, approval of 5/13/24 public work and utility committee meeting.
Move to approve.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 6, approval of April 2024 water and sewer permit.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 2024 water and sewer permit applications.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? I have it, thank you. Staff report, item 7, CIP update. Michael?
All right, things are starting to get fun. The County Road X to County Road, I guess Orion Street portion of the Weston Ave project was awarded to Integrity Grading. They've indicated starting work after the 4th of July. At the village board meeting last week, the board did give staff the direction to remove the multi-use path from the north side due to not being able to come to an agreement for the right of way and the inability to utilize eminent domain for right of way for a path. So AECom is working on getting that design change taken care of, and but should be able to get rolling on that fairly quickly here. The part that integrity would start with would be kind of some of the storm ponds on that phase anyway, so we'll need to get the roadway right away.
Do you have any drawing of it?
I could throw it in, I could pop it up on the screen quick.
Are you interested in seeing it?
So this is kind of, well, the section we were initially asked to look at was trying to fit a sidewalk in on the north side to see if that would be possible without having, roadway, a ditch, a path, and then I guess it's still kind of a drainage way behind it. But even putting a sidewalk here, this is the purple here is the existing right of way. It was still creating a need for roughly at least 12 feet of right of way purchase. So then if we looked
Are
at,
they gonna sell it to us?
they wouldn't this way because that right of way is needed for because the sidewalk would be included. So if we take that sidewalk away, we still need maybe about 5 feet. But it's really a 12-foot driving lane, 8.5 feet of shoulder, would pave 7.5 to 8 feet of that, and then still leave at least probably about a 1 foot gravel shoulder. We can look at the slope of the ditch. There's a few things we can look at to try to maybe minimize this 5 feet. For suspended solids removal credit, we need to own the land that the ditch is in. So we might be able to still even slide this slightly into the existing right of way. But unfortunately, we've landowners there that are unwilling to sell us land if it means there's gonna be a path there or a separate path from the road, so.
And with that 8.5, would that be like a bike path then, or is that just gonna be
It is a paved shoulder. It
a
is.
shoulder?
Are you gonna do like you've done on like Weston, or no? Are you not gonna have any markings or?
We would delineate a lane line, yeah. Would there at least be a lane line there but it is there for vehicles to be able to pull off the arterial street, and if somebody chooses to walk or bike on it, that is their choice, but it is not a dedicated pedestrian way or sidewalk or anything like that.
Is that 1.5% in there? That's a slope or what?
Oh, sorry, I was trying to cover up the sidewalk that was on there. All I did was try to white out this and draw the slope in, so ignore that.
You
This is-
mentioned you get no credit for solids removal or whatever, unless you own 100% of it, or just the majority?
So the bottom of the ditch has to be in the right of way. So like I said, we might be able to slide this a little
All we
bit.
need is 6 inches.
Yeah, we might be able to make this work. There's still gonna at least need to be a grading easement that we would need to have some right of way agreement for to blend this back in with the private property, but it may not be much. My hope is to try to get that to be as close to 0 as possible so that we're able to just move. And the majority of this design is the same as is. The existing roadway was a 12-foot lane with a 5-foot shoulder and 5-foot paved shoulder and 3 feet of gravel. So really, we're looking at maybe adding about 6 inches to it and paving, putting more pavement there. So,
We have no flexibility on the other side because of wetland.
the other side, we could maybe move, we're already bought some right of way. So this is one snapshot at Is it maybe about 150, 200 feet west of Von Kennel Street, adjacent to one of those properties. There are some other gas utility lines there. We could look at maybe shifting it, a foot or so, but the key is once we get through the Von Kennel intersection and keep heading east, then we run into some of those existing houses. So a foot maybe doesn't mean a whole lot, but if we tried to fit that path in there and added 12 feet, and then we tried to shift that all south, then the roadway ended up being very, probably within 10, 15 feet of those people's front doors. So that would have been a tough sell to go back and try to ask them for additional land to have the road come a lot closer to them. So that's where we ended up was, and then a lot of, the two main properties realistically, no development is, the major development that we're expecting to happen along that corridor will happen once those properties sell. So once those properties sell, we can, essentially go back to the original design and put a path or a sidewalk in as those lots develop.
So you can't take property solely for the path, but at the time of sale, you're allowed to?
And we through our zoning code, we could say as part of your commercial development, we'd have a development agreement with that person saying you need to put this in. Or we,
And they have to go along with that?
generally speaking, yes, unless we, if you read our zoning code, it does say that anybody along a corridor is required to put in the sidewalk. I believe even on the plan commission agenda tonight, there's an exemption for one of those properties in the business park. Just because there isn't a sidewalk near where that warehouse facility is. But otherwise, yes, we would.
Would your idea be to put it in as you have the ability, or wait until you have the rights to the entire?
Yeah, so the first property coming off of X on the north side there, so it's the first quarter mile, that property owner is fine. So we will be putting a multi-use path coming off of X for what's half of a quarter mile, an eighth of a mile. So about the first eighth of a mile off of X, there will be one kind of getting you above right to the crest of the hill there. And then that path will kind of transition onto the shoulder on the north side there. So at least right at the intersection, there is a way to kind of move east without being on the road. And then, as development occurs, we would try to create a dedicated system so that people have an off pavement option. And as development occurs, we expect, the additional trucks and traffic to just keep increasing. And I guess the one nice thing is if we do go with this slightly wider pavement section, we have the ability in the future to restripe and create a shared left turn lane at a minimum so that we could create a turn lane into developments.
Other question?
All right, I'll go back to the rest of it. So the Alderson to Birch project was awarded to Haas. That's our joint project with Rothschild. Starting to work on getting a pre-construction meeting together. I don't know if Tom's got an update.
Thursday.
That's right, that's this
9.
Thursday. And then they indicated starting later this June and
Monday, I guess.
this coming Monday now?
17th, I was just told this
Awesome.
afternoon. Just, I think traffic control, clearing ground stuff. I obviously will know more Thursday, but that's what Chad told me, the Monday he was told.
Okay, I'll have to bug Chad on that one then. Cause the school district's very interested in getting any updates there that might impact,
I think he told me just this after, real recent, like within the last hour or two, so he
Okay.
must have just got something from
Sure.
so.
Okay. Just so the other people in the room know, Tom works for MSA and he will be one of the people overseeing the construction there, so. Okay, the East Jelnik and Von Kennel project is also slated to start the week of the 17th with the water main through Stillwater being the first thing on the docket for Melvin companies there. The Jelnik Ave between Mockmiller and Alderson is underway. They've gotten a lot of the curb and sidewalk removals completed. And they've gotten what, about 6, 7 storm structures replaced out of the 30?
Yeah.
So the rest of this week will be more storm structures and possibly some water valve repairs starting this week as well. So there'll be some interruption in water service for some of those residents along that route or in some of the side streets. And let's see, we've got a couple different Ross Ave projects that Becker Hoppy's working on. The Metro to Alderson is, I guess, myself and Mark Thuet with the city of Schofield received some of the preliminary roundabout layouts. Some of them are a little extreme as far as where they fall on the existing property, so kind of asked them to take a look at moving them slightly so that seeing what we could do to make it work without having to purchase full properties or tear down existing structures. So I think that was just kind of the first crack at seeing how it laid out within the intersections there and making sure the trucks and turning movements would be met. Let's see, Fuller Street, there is I say the stormwater plan for that was an initial concept, and then it'd be a final design once we kind of knew what we'd be looking at. So Ike and I will be reviewing that to see if that's something we do in-house as far as the stormwater plan and running stormwater down Rogan to Kellyland Park. Or we'd kind of create an infiltration basin in those soccer fields and lower them so that when it rains, the water would run downhill there, infiltrate in, and that would get us our suspended solids and our peak loading reductions if we put curb and gutter in along that corridor, which I guess I'm kind of looking at right now.
Is that cheaper or what might it, is that, I think that chunk of land is still available for sale. Would it be cheaper to buy that and use that as a pond? or
It's
no?
not low enough.
It's not low enough.
By the time we'd get sloping down and be deep enough,
It wouldn't cut it.
it wouldn't be big enough,
Okay.
yeah. And besides just Fuller Street, it'd treat all that other area too, so we can get more credit towards our phosphorus removal with the DNR.
There's a stormwater in there. It'll be deep
On Fuller?
on that soccer field.
Yeah, so we'd try to,
It's very deep.
yeah, so we'd try to catch that.
Like Tricia, all those other streets to the north, that would all go down there then.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, I mean, currently a lot of that water goes straight down Thomas, I do believe, out to, and outfalls into the river or the floodplain there, so we redirect a lot of, or a fair amount of that to get to Kellyland Park, so. But it's not just a Fuller Street project, it's kind of more of a regional treatment basin then too, so. Anyhow.
You're gonna interfere and get access to the dog park then? No?
No, we'd run it past the dog park entrance. Yeah. And this intersection, again, we've got some preliminary layouts from Marathon County. The first one I thought was a little too far west, the second one was a little too far east, so maybe the next layout will be kind of right where we want it without disturbing too much of the adjacent land. And then, yeah, we met with Milt, Jamie and I did last week with the town of Weston about the agreement for the Riverbend to Paul's. So we should be getting the state municipal agreement from the DOT at the end of this month of June. And once we have that, we'll have the construction year established and we can finalize that agreement. So the consultant is Becker Hoppy on that one, shouldn't be to be determined. I guess they did start working, getting some communication back from the DOT for the storm pond at Business 51 and Highway 29. So I think we're finally getting some movement on that one. And maybe next month we'll have a little more discussion about the Schofield Ave, Normandy to Birch Street project. And then the traffic counts were completed by MSA. I was hoping to have the updates last week for the X corridor as well as the Alderson Jelnik, but sounds like I should be getting them this week. So. And as far as wells, the 7 and 8 project was deemed substantially complete. However, they're not yet to final completion, so the wells are pumping to the distribution system, but there's still some punch list items and other chemical feed system I guess details to be worked out yet with Ellis and their subcontractors. And the fiber install is also complete, but they're still needing to come back and get their restoration taken care of in front of our building here, as well as along Ross Avenue and the rest of Highway X here, wherever they came up for a handhole. And the wastewater portion of the SCADA is still being hung up by AT&T and some of their the communications aspects there. Our PFAS treatment, August Winter has that project, and we're getting our documents all together for the safe drinking water loan, which we'll be submitting here at the end of June. And eventually here I'll be able to start shifting these items to somebody else.
Okay. Any question for Michael? None? Okay, street operation update?
Yeah, things are moving along slowly. The rain's kind of set us back a little bit, and we don't have all the sweeping completed yet in the village on the street sweeping. Just been a tough spring, tough summer, but we've got some other stuff that emergencies that came up. We had to replace a cross culvert over on Shepherd Lane by Park Ridge. There's a hole in the road. And like always, that stuff pops up. Kind of where we're behind, we've been helping the park department with all the park structure replacements. It's kind of turned into more than we anticipated. They're replacing the structures at all the different parks. So that's taken up a little time. I'm not blaming them. It's just something that's kind of thrown a wrench in the gears a little bit. We're hoping to get started on Chadwick Street area, I call it. It would be east of Mesker. It's north of the safety building there. We've got storm sewer to put in there. Everything's been located, and hopefully this week we can start. We've got we're gonna be using Nioplast structures in there for the first time, the green Nioplast, kind of like what we put in over in Crestwood, which are nice. They're a money saving. It should save us time too. So most of the pipe is gonna be 12-inch HDPE culvert running to the Nioplast 15-inch structures. So we're looking to get started on that this week. The guys were out last week. They wedged on Eau Claire Avenue, some of the areas where we had stripping over the last couple of years, because that is going to get overlaid by RC pavers. We did 2 asphalt overlay contracts this year. The first one was bid out in April, and RC pavers got that. There, I've been trying to get a hold of them. They have to have their work completed before school starts, August 30th. And they're going to be down off Alderston Street in Sandy Meadows area. And then they've got some other work to do. The second asphalt overlay contract was let on May 15th, and American Asphalt's got that. So if you go down Alderson Street to the north from Ross, heading down into Schofield almost, Mallard Court goes to the east, and that subdivision's gonna get asphalt overlay in there. The guys milled all the butt joints this last week since we bought the milling head last year, and we have the capability of running it because we have a skid steer that's big enough with high flow on it. So we're doing that in-house, which they've gotten good at it. They can do it pretty fast and it saves us money. So last week they were in there. There was a culvert too that came up in there that we ended up replacing before the overlays went in. So that took a little time and they got that paved in. This was some curb work that we did over on Ross Avenue by Corzella. There was a chunk of curb. There's more in there that's bad, but this one was really bad. So we ripped it out. Last week we poured it in. Ross Avenue is gonna get GSB 88. I think I mentioned this last time around too, starting from Camp Phillips, going all the way out to the roundabout. So we wanted to get this done. So basically the big items right now is gonna be Chadwick storm sewer, try and get going on that because we're just feeling the pressure that we want to get it done. So we're not holding our C pavers up when they want to get in there and do their paving. We've been out mowing with, we hired a new employee a while back, Peter Berzin. He started, I think, in May, if I remember right. Great guy. He's good. He's in there running the trackless mower. The Lizard is a nickname for it. So he's been doing the urban mowing and he's been out in the John Deere boom mower doing the rural mowing too. With the amount of rain we've got, this grass has just gone crazy, you know? So we're doing the best, you know. You might see a little bit when you get out in the rural areas where, you know, the tractor itself has a boom on it with a 5-foot flail. Then it's got I think it's a 6 or 7 foot flail on the rear on the 3-point. When you run the two together, sometimes there's a little strip when the grass gets this high that you're gonna see a little bit standing up. So if you hear complaints from people, we don't have the time to go back and mow that little strip down. It's the way it is. I took a call today from a woman and we discussed it, and the county and everybody's having the same problem. It's just the nature of the beast. But the idea is to try and get that stuff knocked down so you can see the deer, especially with the little fawns that are just hatched, you know, recently coming out to the road. So we're doing our best on that. So I guess the big push is gonna be Chadwick, try and get going on that storm sewer and keep up with the other stuff that pops up. That was a cross culvert on Shepherd Lane that they replaced. It was a galvanized pipe, ripped it out, and there wasn't much cover on it, so we ended up putting, I think they put a galvanized back in there, yep. So, and then we paved that kind of stuff ourselves. So the guys do a good job at it, and I'm kind of proud of them. Then after that, one of the things I was gonna touch on quick is the Mallard Court area where they were milling the butt joints. American Asphalt's got that. I talked with them today. They're looking at coming in there possibly Wednesday to do the overlay on that. So he's got some wedging to do, and then they're gonna get that overlaid. And kind of get that out of the way. And then coming up, starting probably about the 1st of July, our Thunder Road is the name of the company that's gonna do the crack sealing this year. That was Lat 2 in April. They were here 2 years ago. They do a good job. They don't monkey around, come and get it done. So they're gonna be starting, he was saying, hopefully July 1st. They have to have it done by the 17th of July. That's what's written in the contract. And the reason why is we have streets that are gonna have GSB 88, basically the sealer that's gonna get sprayed on them. We're not doing any chip sealing this year. It's a sealer. So Ross Avenue and these other streets. So we wanna try and make sure that they're done with their crack sealing before those guys come in and get that done. Then after that, the technology park, we've got projects out there. It's gonna be curb replacement and inlet work, and Potricus Construction, they do masonry. They've got the city of Wausau's contract that they're working on now, all the sidewalk contract up there for them. When they get done in Wausau, they're gonna come here and probably go to the technology park first. There's quite a bit of curb out there. They're gonna do the removal, and then the replacement, and the storm inlets are all gonna get worked on too, because they've got concrete rings on them. So as long as we're popping it off, they're gonna get replaced with HDPE, the LadTech rings in there. When they're done, after that's done, then American Asphalt's gonna do the milling and paving out there, full depth mill and pave. The other thing that's on there, and I'll get you a list for the next meeting, so you kind of, because as it's coming now, we'll get some timeframes on this. Then when Potricus is done out there, they're gonna go to the roundabout by Ross and Sandy. And all the curb around that roundabout that needs to be replaced is getting ripped out. So they're gonna do that and rework the inlets, and we're gonna go to mountable curb on all the islands because it's kind of tight to get in and out of there with a plow truck. So I just got the casting showed up today for that, so they're gonna come in and they're gonna redo that, so. That kind of sums everything. I know it's kind of fast, but I'll get you something on paper for the next one, so you can see maps and that, and it'll make one. So that's a picture of the park over there in Sandy Meadows where all the equipment was out, and then we dig it down, as they're gonna have curbing put in around it, and then they have a mulch that goes back in when it's done.
Yes, what they put back in there?
Sean's got some sort of I don't know, maybe,
Wood fiber product.
is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Nothing.
like wood chips, but not wood, it's like wood chip.
Is that big pile by Northwest? Is that what that is? I
Yes.
was wondering, yeah. Yeah, it
Let's
looks like
take your
wood chips.
wheelbarrow and go get it. You had some woman call me up and ask if they could come get some. Sorry.
No, it does look just like, I mean, driving, it looks like wood chips.
Mhm.
Do they put anything below that or just what chips that's it?
Why, they probably put a fabric down or?
I'm not sure exactly. That's kind of the parks gig. All we're doing is we rip the equipment out. Some of them they actually sold, some of the old playground equipment on Wisconsin Surplus online. And then we're helping them out with the grading and what if they need base underneath the curb. That Reedy's, he does curbing around a lot of houses here. He's got the bid, I guess, for the curbing around all of those.
I don't believe there's fabric underneath, because I think it's
probably-
either 6 or 8 inches deep.
Also, it rots
Yeah,
away and
Yeah,
just keep topping it off then.
Question?
Just on an unrelated topic, how's the Little Eau Claire Bridge holding up? We had the delaminating problem.
Yeah, it's staying there. In fact, I gotta take a better look at it because it looked like you might have another spall starting on it. When we did that, Tom Hardinger's been bridge supervisor for DOT. He's actually over the whole north central region now. But I knew him way back when I was at Highway, because I spent 7 years on bridge crew there. And with that deck, because it's got uncoated rebar, it's black steel in it. You're just gonna keep chasing it down the line. I mean, it was pretty major what was done on this the last time. If it does fall again, a guy can take, because I did a lot of that. You can saw it, sound it, saw it, chip it down below the bar, and then use a quick set cement and just keep up with them. But the next step on that bridge is probably gonna be redecking. That's what Tom and I talked with him, and he's like, the next step is probably you're gonna end up taking the whole deck off. And so that's something to think about, you know, can they do it in halves? I believe they can. I've seen it done in halves. It just depends on what, you know? So hopefully you can get another 15 years out of it, maybe, you know, who knows? But it was pretty extensive, everything that was done to it, so.
All right. Item 9, utility operation update.
Yeah, so we had handful of kind of our miscellaneous well maintenance items with some chem feed pump stuff. Michael touched on our well 7-8 status. Unidirectional flushing is
Excuse me,
on.
whose problem is that to fix it? Who's Oh,
It's theirs.
but who's the subcontractor?
Spring Lake,
Why is it not here?
they've tried a few times.
So they get it.
Why? Can we get somebody else to do it, get over with it?
Well, so we're still collecting damages on it daily until they get it fixed, so.
Is it worth it?
Well, we're still, it's working. And then we call them, we say, hey, it stopped working. They come and they make a quick fix and until it actually continues to work for, you know, a week at least. We,
a month.
Cause they have been here and they've repaired leaks and then, you know, we'll get the morning text that either fluoride's leaking or
I mean,
chlorine's leaking or.
it's not like it's items that make it so the well is unusable, but we don't want to be inheriting a pump that's got a fluoride leak or a chlorine leak right now. Like those things happen over time as, you know, the connection, the tubing wears, but it shouldn't happen, you know, 2 days after it's fixed, so.
Did they have a pressure problem? What is there?
Yeah, sometimes it loses prime, sometimes it, so.
So, I mean, is it undersized?
I don't believe so. If anything, maybe it's a little oversized.
Oversized, or is it oversized or?
Yeah.
I feel like the chlorine has been pretty good as of late, but I think we've had more fluoride issues where they'd come in and then the fluoride went to pump because I don't know the ins and outs, but there's something, the pressure would build and then it shuts the whole well off instead of just alarming something. So there was a few different pathways that caused it to not function like it should. So I think we got some of the communication stuff figured out, but it's just the actual functionality of the system itself was not as it should be. But it is, we are able to utilize it for our flushing purposes, which is good that you know, we can keep that up and isolate half of our system here. So like I was saying, the water main flushing is ongoing. I think it's been going fairly well lately. We haven't had kind of on the older end of town. It was a little bit hairy to start. Thought it was going to be a rough go, but it seemed to, I think it's going pretty well. We haven't had too many complaints, at least I haven't gotten to me. So either the upfront staff's handling it or it's just everything seems to be functioning as it should. We're continuing to sample our EPA PFAS. That probably will be coming to an end once we kind of start the permanent treatment plant project. We did have a handful of days with some water main pipe delivering for our Weston Ave projects and our Jelnik projects. We're continuing with our valve exercising. That's kind of it on the water side. Sewer side, we had just a couple lift station maintenance items, still monitoring some of our pH data. Our lift station cleaning actually was wrapped up this morning. So with that, we will probably be jumping, well, we'll probably keep hammering some of the valve exercising, but we'll be getting onto our sanitary sewer jetting here. That's gonna take us probably majority of the rest of the summer to get through. Did some general lift station generator maintenance items. Michael touched on the SCADA project. I'm not sure why apparently AT&T had downsized, and the person who was kind of running the show for us through that was taken off our project without notifying anyone. So our contact at PJ Corton was trying to talk to them with no response. So I was able to get their new contact. So I guess hopefully we'll get some of the communication back for our, like Michael had mentioned, our wastewater side of things. Our diggers tickets, the guys are busy with diggers locates. A lot of frontier work is coming in, kind of trying to keep up with Charter and TDS in the area. Work orders continued, then some of our other miscellaneous work, monitoring our EMOR data, the DNR, our carry well. We'll have to get over there and probably plan something. I can't remember when their shutdowns were. I believe it's August or September. There's a good amount of time where they're gonna be shutting down, so we're gonna hopefully plan a full rehab of the well over there. I know they've been dealing with some manganese issues, so something we want to get on top of and try to do some more frequent small cleanings in place of just, you know, the every other few year full-blown rehab. So our meter pits, that should be coming to an end here. I think one of our last items was some tree replacement we had along the one on Fuller
How much was that change order for that
for the,
meter pit?
I don't remember what the final
That was a
number
change
was.
order, wasn't it?
There, we were working on a change order. Yeah, we had some back and forth with the contractor because
That's a mid-state, isn't it?
that was August Winter was out there as well with it.
Oh, who's the engineer?
That was Clark Dietz. Yeah. So we had, you know, they had some issues they faced with some water main, AC main that, you know, it wasn't, you can't really locate it. And they had caught it with a tooth when we'd kind of, you know, told them where the main would be. So it was just kind of determining what would have been, what work would have already had to be completed to do the work, you know, not just, well, we had to do all this work because we hit the water main. It was, you were gonna be there anyways, so we had to kind of back and forth, and then, you know, we say, well, we had to volunteer our vac truck and our guys' time, so let's just square it up. So I actually don't, I know Michael was kind of finalizing that one, so I didn't see the final change order on that side. But I think that we should be getting close to wrapping up that meter pits project then. Our hydrant painting, I need to get back to John Paulman, but we were on the schedule for June, July, probably more July with our hydrant maintenance. I think we just wrapped that up. We got maybe a week left of our hydrant maintenance. I just didn't want them to get on our schedule and then we're in their ways, so we should be getting our chunk of hydrant painting done here, maybe after the 4th. I had mentioned our valve exercising and flushing and our sewer jetting. I guess other than that, we have kind of our usual customers added and our water pumpage and lift station hours and wastewater flows.
Question.
don't know if it's to ask you or Michael, but did we make any headway with remodeling the sanitary?
Well, they have another meeting tomorrow
Yeah.
and we got our. I guess, I don't know, we got our May data, which was, I think, even lower than our April data, which, you know, it's. It feels to myself, I guess, that, you know, that odd month that was so high, it just seems like there needs to be something done, but I don't know if. Michael wants to speak on it, but I know they are meeting tomorrow.
Yes, yeah, we have a meeting, or the commission has another meeting tomorrow. I guess the good news is when I asked for a credit on our account, they didn't say no. I attended their May meeting. And for some of the commissioners, it was the first, they were hearing about it, so I said, you know, I don't need an answer, I don't need to leave here with an answer from you, but at the very least, I would like it to be on the June agenda so we can discuss again. And they were receptive to rethinking it or looking at a credit. The biggest thing was in whatever the 30+ years that the metro has existed, they've never had a credit issued, so they want to make sure they don't set a precedent or do something that would go again. So they'd ask their director to look in and see if they've had other large billing anomalies in the past, which it didn't sound like anyone could remember this ever occurring. So, you know, just looking at what they billed the communities for in the month of March, it was for 509,000 pounds of suspended solids. And the plant only, you know, reported having 190,000 pounds, so, which, let's see here. 340,000 of those pounds was the village of Weston, so. So we were a good, you know, a good chunk of that. So, and again, they bill everything based on a 3-day average and then multiply that by your flow for the entire month, so. I think they acknowledge that might be an anomaly. I volunteered, you know, I said you can bill us for the whole 190,000 pounds that the plant treated. That's still, you know, barely more than, not quite half of what you billed us for, but it's close to about half of what we got billed for, and that would get us closer to what our normal month billing is, so.
We can't not offer a credit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it just isn't even, it's nonsensical.
Yeah, and some of the commissioners did say, yeah, well, that doesn't sound fair, and if I was in your shoes, I would be here asking the same questions. I'm like, okay.
It doesn't sound fair, it sounds criminal.
Yeah.
I mean, numbers are numbers.
How do you bill somebody for more than what you can process?
Yeah, so
That's
that's
ridiculous.
And that's what I was trying to look into was how does this compare monthly? Unfortunately, the only 2 months of data that I have and I can compare to that's accessible is the March and April. In April, they billed for 240,000 tons and they treated 188,000 tons, so about 80%.
Isn't that fraud? I mean, isn't it fraud? I mean, seriously. I don't understand.
I guess I was looking for.
I just consider that to be outright fraud.
So what can we complain?
What was that?
Can we complain to public service?
We could, I guess I was trying to see, like, is this a trend? Like, are they normally sending out bills and then, you know, reporting a treatment that is 80% and that's how their rate is determined? I mean, if that's consistent and we've got this 1 month where it was at 37% instead of 80%, then we go, hey, this was definitely an anomaly if you used your general error, because I mean, they're not getting a daily average, right? Or a daily reading or a continuous reading for suspended solids and BOD. And they are relying on kind of this average number over 3 days. So I guess for me, as long as it's consistent month to month, that's fine. You know, there's some margin of error there, but when that margin of error is whatever it was, 5 standard deviations from the mean, then we're definitely talking about something that's not just a little, a blip in the radar. It was a major jump. So like I said, they seemed agreeable to it. They just weren't quite sure how to grant that at the May meeting. So tomorrow, hopefully.
If you have 10 units to sell and you claim you're selling 20.
Yeah.
You think their bill would match whatever they treat.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think.
The
I mean, that-
combination of everyone's bills would equal the total.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, and to be that high.
It's the sum of the parts must equal the whole. If you're billing for more than the whole, then
Yeah, no,
So are they gonna pay us back from previous month also?
that was the ask, is that our March bill be adjusted so that would be more consistent with what an average bill would have been. Or what the plant treated. I mean, the 190,000 pounds are. I mean, we've had bills that have been I mean, like in February, our bill was for 197,000 pounds. So I mean, 190,000 pounds isn't, I guess looking back historically, something that necessarily looks way out of place. It's higher. I mean, this past month we were at 114,000 pounds. April was 133,000. Our January bill was 160,000. So I mean, 190 is a little high, but it's not. And you know, the data they have showed that we had some spikes on those 3 days, but that spike didn't last for the whole month, I guess. So there is some truth in that. Yes, there was a higher loading that came from Weston on those 3 days, but it definitely didn't persist for the entire month. So I guess that's where they.
how much is the total or your thought as to the overcharge?
So
I mean, what do we usually, I mean, 140,000 is our bill.
yeah, so it's probably about 60,000, 70,000, somewhere in that range.
That's quite bad.
It is quite a bit.
So it's enough-
And that's the credit I'm asking for is, you know, that about $60,000.
So if they don't offer anything, it's enough to threaten them with legal action?
Could be, I mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
we
not
could-
that it's my place, but I would move that to the board.
Or have discussions of they need to improve their sampling procedures,
Yeah.
more samples. I know
I
they
mean-
say it's expensive, but this is expensive for us.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be my personal.
That's
opinion.
their job.
Yeah,
Who cares what's expensive?
but I think
Yeah.
that's what, I mean, we have agreed to enter this and that's what their sampling procedures were when we
Yeah.
became part of this, so. I think we maybe are not, hopefully not the only community asking questions about this now, I guess.
I mean, I can see the sampling and you get a percentage of what you're doing, but that percentage should be what they treated, you know?
Yep.
And that just doesn't make any.
And-
I mean, over the
and-
course of, say, how many, 10, 15 years, how much money, you know?
Yep.
Say it's 10,000 or 15 a month.
Yep.
That adds up.
And that was what I asked too. I said, you know, at the end of the day, you should have a check that says, okay, we treat it 190, we should bill for 190. And, you know, you can use this data that maybe would have calculated out to 550, but yes, use that proportion, right? Say, okay, Weston's still 45%, 50% of this number. You know, and we get our bill based on that breakdown, not just some projected out number for what it would have been for the whole month.
3-day average that goes way over what they actually treated. So,
Yeah.
I can't get over the fact that they're billing for more than they process.
Yeah.
We want a review for
I guess
past 2 years.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get through, but the data wasn't as readily available as I guess I would have hoped.
Since when you start monitoring it?
I mean, I have our data, the hard part is getting the plant data. So that's what I've been.
Shouldn't be any hard, that's their job.
Yes.
They should give us the information we need.
how many communities are there?
It's us, Remountain, Rothschild, Cronewater, Mosany, it's the 5 of us.
I'd love to know how much did all 5 pay every month, or how much compared to that output of that plant?
Yeah. And that's what I was starting to go through, like I said, at the May
Especially
meeting.
with some of the extra money we gotta pay for some of their upgrades that they're doing now too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so that was one of those asks of moving forward, I would like to see this data and I'd like to be provided with this data for those previous months too. And I was told it'd be uploaded on the website. The March and April data is on the website. I haven't seen anything else unless it happened this afternoon. So we'll be going back and forth on this until,
Yeah, can we add this as an ongoing agenda?
sure, until it's resolved.
Until it's resolved. I mean, again, I'm not on the board, but that just grinds me to no end.
Yeah,
Well, we can make a recommendation to the board, say this, we want to be done, and let them make a decision. And I'll be there to say, you have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't, it doesn't sit well with me at all that they're billing taxpayers for something they didn't even do. That,
You multiply that by all the communities, I mean, that's a big, it's a,
yeah, it does not sit well with me at all. I don't like that.
It's kind of amazing you though, that they would, somebody within their organization wouldn't have caught that and said, hey, you know what I mean? That doesn't make sense to me.
I think that's just how it's set up. It's, they sample the 3 days, that's the result, and it's,
Nobody ever
Fucking
comments,
chug.
nobody does what I call a smell test, the common sense that.
well, and that's where when we saw it, and it's like,
Right.
still is significant.
yeah. So 11:30 is the meeting tomorrow, if anybody else wants to.
It's not my worry, but
Can we make a
Well, this is
motion?
part of a report, so. I think we can do that.
I mean,
It is on the agenda.
I guess we are on the remote and metro commissioners agenda tomorrow for with Weston's dispute of their March bill. Like, it's on their agenda, like I am following up on it, so I don't know if I necessarily need a motion from you guys.
Well, it's not just a march, we want further than that.
Well, I guess I would wait until
see what they
they
say.
tell us no, right? Like, if they say yes, I don't know if we need to.
Well, if they say yes just for March, that's not acceptable.
Well, that's the main one. The rest are consistent. The rest aren't. I guess what the one point they did make is this has been our billing practice. This is the billing practice that's in the agreement with all the communities. And that's, it seems to be consistent, right? Like year after year after year, if you look at March or say May of 2024 compared to May of 23 compared to May of 22. And that's where I was trying to get the rest of the numbers is if there's always the same kind of margin of error, their rates are based on what they're anticipating on their number, so it may be a little bit of a false number, but that's how their rate is developed too. So instead of say charging us 29 cents per pound or whatever it ends up being, they would be charging us 33 cents if the number was 100% instead of 80%. So I think there, as long as it's consistent and it's not
Consistent, still is a story.
Yeah.
It is a taxpayer money and it still is not acceptable.
well,
You can't do that, even if it is consistent coming same number. You overcharging it every month,
but that's how,
over and over and over.
but it's not, but it wouldn't just be Weston's number, right? It'd be.
It doesn't matter that the rest of them the same thing.
But what I'm saying is their rate, so if say they're billing higher and they're charging us 80 cents. If they say, hey, wait, this flow is actually lower, but now they charge us $1, and they would change their rate from 80 cents to $1, so we pay that extra 20 cents, so. I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out is, are we at least at a point where it's consistent across the board for every community? And if it is, then that rate structure that they have is based on that margin of error between what they're measuring and what the plant is producing. There's some, infiltration or something else maybe that's factoring in there. So there could be that error,
Are we locked in on a rate for a certain amount of years?
for the year, yeah, so they set
It's
their
year
rate,
rate?
it's an annual rate.
Okay.
And they adjust, and that's been an issue with them over the years is their rates fluctuate. If they build up a big fund balance or, they go, oh shoot, we overbilled everybody this month, so the next year they drop the rate. Actually our billings from remote and metro historically have been kind of a roller coaster. It hasn't just been flat,
they regulated by.
which then leads us into trying to figure out, some years our sewer utility, we have a surplus, and other years we run a deficit because
Yeah.
it's harder, we don't want to change our sewer rate every year to balance with that too, so we, this year we're running at a deficit last year. And like last 2 years though, we had a little bit of a surplus, so.
Definitely they're gonna have surplus.
It just seems like their formula is backwards. You should start out with what did the plant process
Yeah,
and what is everyone's proportionate share based on our sampling.
yeah, correct. And that's what I said to them is, you know,
They're going in at the other, yeah.
Yeah.
It does, just because they always did something foolish, no reason to continue.
yeah, and then they said, well, if you want us to change our billing practices, that's something everybody needs to agree on. I said, well, I'm not necessarily asking you to do that, but if you want to do that, I would recommend we find something that is more representative. So,
Because I understand your point about it, well, even if they have to recover the total sum of their costs, right? And if they're gonna bill everybody less in total, or less pounds per, then the cost per pound goes up and, okay, but.
yeah. I just want to know we're getting billed proportionately
Right.
correct, like whether that's compared to our other communities, right? We don't want to be the one bearing the cost of, you know, 80% of the cost if we're not 80% of the contribution, so.
Whatever's increase in wages, so. Are they regulated by the PSC, Michael? Do you know?
They are not, we could always file a complaint with the PSC if we wanted to. I did tell them that. I
They're
said,
not governed by them.
they're not governed by the PSC.
So if we file the complaint, does it,
The
how do?
PSC can still follow up.
Okay.
And they can review their books and still do that.
I
Well,
still,
if PSC doesn't wanna answer it, we can take them to Merritt County Court.
We could do that too.
So,
I agree with that, and my thing would be from. Listen, when you get into court and you're gonna try and defend the fact that you're charging more than you process.
you can't do that.
How well do you think that would be received by either a judge or a jury? Cause I don't think anybody's getting past that one.
No,
You have 10 candy bars, you're selling 15 a month. How does that work?
they're gonna try to hang their hat to their point on the fact that we have an agreement that says we agree to these billing practices.
Nobody agrees to fraudulent billing practice.
Yeah.
That's my response.
We'll ask our taxpayers, see what they have to say about this.
Yeah.
Do they agree with that? I don't think so.
Where do they meet at anyway?
At the wastewater treatment plant on Astor Road,
3:30 tomorrow.
11:30.
They find out
Dr. Morton said he was on
time,
utility
which is the
committee.
maximum
He's on
flow
it.
project.
Give me that.
And he's,
They're not gonna, they wanna pick over to get a maximum, whatever.
I mean, I don't think there's any there's no ill intention. It's just, again, this is how the system works for them. This is what they have always done. And like I said, the commissioners seem to be open to, okay, we need to look at this. We need to review it and it doesn't seem correct, right?
Saying it and doing it and paying the
Yeah.
money back is two different stories.
Exactly.
It's like to see the interest back. I can guarantee you they're not gonna pay you a dime back. They're gonna credit it to your account.
And that's fine. I mean, like I said, we just paid $136,000 bill, so next month, if we only have to pay 70,000 because we have a $60,000 credit, that's fine. It's not like we're never gonna pay them ever again, so.
Okay, we need the update next meeting, please.
Yep, I can do that.
We're gonna think about it to get mad enough and come back. All right, policy discussion and recommendation, item 10. I'm sorry, Josh, are you finished?
Yeah, yep.
Take some of your time away from you.
No, it's all good. I got time coming up right now for this a little bit.
All right, thank you. Policy discussion and recommendation, item 10, 2023 compliance maintenance annual report for sanitary sewer utility. Who's doing that?
I will, yeah, it's nothing too outrageous for this. It's just our compliance maintenance annual report for the sewer utility. You guys have probably heard before, but it's just a self-evaluation of our system to evaluate the wastewater treatment system for problems or deficiencies. You know, I guess, I don't know if there's any questions, you know, some of the key points, I guess, we updated a little bit of our project list for future planning. Some of the projects that we had listed are, completed or either ongoing or coming up in the next handful of years. I guess as of this report, we did add a lift station. We're now up to 14 as of 2023 with our Trotzer station addition. With that, we also had upgrades to the Ryan Street station as part of that river crossing. But really nothing stood out. We had reviewed some of our plans. We need to get on top of a few things, but as of right now, I think we're sitting okay. Maybe it's something that we can get together with when we have downtime and look over our CMOM a little bit and see what some other additions we might need to have, but we have plenty of projects, in the works here for adding, replacing with Ike on board now. We can maybe do some a little bit easier to take some of our already stored televising and start getting a better plan for some of our sewer lining areas. And once our skate is online, we can really start kind of seeing that, kind of the whole system and see where we need to maybe pinpoint for some of our lining or overall replacement of sewer lines. So, but I guess if there's any other questions, we can talk about it, but nothing really too outstanding on it.
Question for Josh? No. Okay. We need any action on this, right?
I think you wanted us
Need
to
a motion to,
adopt.
Yeah, I guess do they need a motion or does this just go to the
I mean, the
board?
Public Works Committee could,
Yeah.
recommend the board adopt the resolution for the, compliance and maintenance annual report.
I'll make a motion to the board, move to adopt the resolution 2024-015 to approve the compliance maintenance annual report for Weston sewer utility and submit to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 11, Green 3 acres construction representative contract. Michael?
So the Green Tree Acres subdivision is the, I guess, new proposed subdivision off of Ross Avenue and the Sandy Meadows subdivision, like Creole, Moose Muskie out by Mock Miller Park there. So Dustin Vreeland or Vreeland Associates was the design engineer for this project. Attached is their proposal for their construction services. This is a contract that gets billed back to the to the developer, so it's almost more of a pass-through contract where we get the bill, but then we bill the developer for that same amount. It's really just ensuring that the infrastructure is being put in per plans and specifications. Historically, we have used the same firm for design and construction as somebody who is most knowledgeable with the design. If there's a discrepancy, they generally know where to look, how to handle that. I guess that's the reason.
Before here, Michael,
What was that?
have they done any work here? before?
They haven't built a subdivision, they've built houses, but this will be the first subdivision that they're building. They have a subdivision in Mosinee and what else did they say? The Wapaka?
So they did all the utility, everything?
Yeah, so they have PGA is hired to do the utility, the underground work for them.
My only question was, is the developer aware of the amount of the bill and they're reasonably okay with it?
Yeah.
It's not like we're gonna approve this, they're gonna contest it.
Correct, yeah.
He has a contract with us, doesn't he?
No, this I saw, yeah,
Yeah.
but
So the contract's with us, but then in the development agreement, they acknowledge that, yes, they will pay for these services.
Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupt you. Go ahead.
I think that was it.
Okay. I'll accept the motion.
I'll move to approve the construction representative contract with Freeland Associates for the Green Tree Acres first phase for the estimated contract range of 31 to 33,000.
I'll second.
Discussion? How did we do this contract with him? And he understand he's responsible for this amount of money.
The development agreement that is signed between the village and is it called Green Tree Builders? That's their name. That it has a paragraph in it that they acknowledge that they are responsible for paying for any engineering costs oversight incurred by the village for their subdivision.
But still, I think we should send this contract to him copy.
Yeah, and they were included in on the emails with Mr. Vreeland for that. We have a meeting tomorrow with them too, so I can remind them.
And
Okay.
they'll both be there for the pre-construction, so yeah. They have familiarity with each other.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 12. Landwood Court construction discussion.
Yeah, so this is almost more of a planning thing, but
Can you pull up a map on this?
Yeah.
Or is that, I know I saw that sort of in there, but I
so
wasn't clear on which one was the.
So this is Huron Street. Actually, it doesn't go north. So Huron Street goes here, that ends. Ryan Street's this one. Our Yardway site is this blue area. Right now, if you drive past this on Huron, this is kind of a farm. There's the transmission lines, the power lines come through right here on the west side. And then there's currently a gravel driveway that comes south on this roadway. I don't know if that helps or if you want me to go to Google.
I think there's actually a for sale sign there, like at the end of that gravel driveway.
The for sale sign, I think, is actually on this lot next to it.
Okay.
'Cause this 15 acres or so is for sale also. I can grab
so
it.
it's just west of that for sale sign.
Correct,
So,
yeah.
okay, I remember seeing that out
So
there.
where is the one house?
I'll grab Google. It'll be easier to see. Screen. So there's a house that's
A super long driveway.
yeah, and essentially right now they just have a very long driveway out to Weston Avenue. This isn't actually a road. So if you're on Weston Ave. You see this gravel driveway and the house is at the very end of it. I think that for sale sign is
If it's in these
right here.
pictures. I'm really excited.
But this was an old house that got burned down and this property is the one that's for sale. So I think if you go out there right now, there is a for sale sign. This was an image from 2019, so it's a little old. But, so yeah, so it's this gravel driveway that goes back for. And the Google car did not go down the road. So if that helps. But it was a subdivision that was platted. A building permit was given out while my understanding is I was not an employee at the Village of Weston at the time. I was at UW-Madison, so I'm not sure of all the details, but my understanding is they were trying to find a way to get water and sewer extended for this subdivision, as well as this other one that didn't end up getting built just on about a quarter mile east and on the north side. And there was the thought that water and sewer is gonna get extended, so everything was gonna work out. Water and sewer ended up not getting extended, but the house was built and it was on a platted street already. So this actually is one of the reasons why our development agreements and our platting process and everything works the way it does now, so that we don't end up with these situations where we have
So they have they have septic and.
It's a private well and septic
private well and
system.
Septic right now.
Yep.
And do we know how old it is?
2007 or 2008 would be my guess.
Okay, so they're halfway, a little more through
Yeah,
their life maybe.
so I guess, and the hard part is that we can't vacate the plat now. My understanding is because there's multiple owners, so other people own some of those other lots within the subdivision.
So who would get, I wasn't clear when I read this, if it's that, and then assessing the adjacent property owners for the
Yep.
improvements at 100% of the cost. Who are the adjacent property owners? And why are they being held responsible for it?
Well, it would be an improvement. It would be a way of forcing the development to the actual roadway to get built. So we would build the road, we'd divide up the frontage, and, you know, those costs would be divided up between these 12 lots. Based on their front foot frontage or their connection charge, however, never mind, I didn't reshare this screen.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't, okay, now I understand where you're, okay, when you said adjacent, I thought you meant like.
Weston Avenue, you're.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, we're gonna have some people awfully angry.
Well, so if we as the village take this project on and say, we're gonna build this cul-de-sac street, and then we're gonna charge these lots around the road for those improvements. You know, if anything, it might help make the existing landowner go, okay, maybe I should market these lots and we can sell them. And that might even be something they're waiting for. I don't know. I haven't talked to that, but
But, okay, but then I said to myself, but then under our policy, because like there's only one existing home, right?
Mhm.
And we're not, are we gonna say we're making an exception to force them to connect? Because ordinarily we say you got 20 years,
Yeah,
if
we-
the system fails.
we could do the same thing where we could extend it out and give them laterals and say, hey, you can use up the rest of your system.
I mean, I felt like we'd almost, or
Yeah,
should.
We should.
I don't know how anybody else feels, but I feel like you treat everybody the same, or that's always my
Yeah.
goal is to, right, so.
Yeah.
They installed a holding tank only in 05, so I think they might connect right away.
Yeah, but okay, well then, then that makes it different too.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking, how old is their system? Because I was thinking to myself, they're probably gonna say, I don't wanna hook up. And then no one will.
And maybe they took a holding tank in 05 because of the thought was they were going to get.
Yeah, it was gonna, yeah, and
Okay, so they're having it pumped and incurring
yeah.
costs and, yeah.
And anybody that would build a house there after we put a road in, like they wouldn't have the option to put in a well and septic, they would have to connect to the system.
Connect right away.
And that's the precedent that we've had on all these other
Correct.
streets too, when we extend it, so.
Yeah. You know, my only other thought would be instead of a cul-de-sac, we bend this road off to the east here along, I think this was an easement. Yeah, there's a 30-foot utility easement, so I'd almost just redo this maybe a little bit and consistent then with our corridor plan and try to maybe, you know, we showed it, the whole thing getting vacated. We found out we can't vacate it. But we could still do this eastern street. So like I said, this adjacent, I think it's 15 acres is for sale, you know, and
Eventually, would you try to loop that back?
yeah, and we'd probably have some kind of back road system here, so you're not having to come out back to Weston Avenue for everything. So,
And do you have just like a rough total cost estimate?
no, I was hoping you didn't ask that. I realized that when I started the meeting, I was like, shoot, I forgot to put that together. I can try to grab that.
How long is the road in Arrowhead? Wouldn't that be somewhat comparable?
Yeah, but you don't have water and sewer and all those costs,
Okay.
so it's
Cause I just thought, are you blasting through rock or are you digging through sand or are you?
I think it's sand up there.
What?
I don't think that's sand. You, Michael, over there? Put some heavier stuff in it.
I mean, it's probably like a silty clay. I don't think it's necessarily high rock. That pond being right there on the west side, this is a borrow pit that would have been used for material, I'm guessing for Highway 29 when it was built. So it had to have at least been decent material for them to wanna use that.
Now I'm wondering if maybe they couldn't get that property to perk, which is why they put in a holding tank. Maybe it's wet in there,
Yeah, it could just be high groundwater.
which would be another reason why they'd want to connect.
I think if I remember right, the reason they didn't want to do it because of the cost of it.
Yeah, and this developer was kind of,
Is that
they were
really-
both playing the waiting game. One was Dean Prohaska, I think this one was Carl Matthews. And my understanding is they're both kind of waiting for the other one to pay the cost to get the water and sewer across the highway. And once that happened, then they just had the little small cost, they didn't have the big cost.
No, no, no.
No?
Well, even the discussion was if we do it, if later on you want to connect it, you gotta pay that cost.
Oh, okay. So like I said, that was before my time. My understanding is there's those two developments not that far from each other and
Yeah, just the cost, they didn't want to do it.
sure.
I don't know however anyone else was, I'm always uncomfortable approving something when I don't know I have a number along.
Yeah, and so I'm not asking for approval, but if you want us to look into this further, I can come back with that number, like whatever it may be. I don't
I
even,
would move to defer any action until we have at least a rough cost estimate of what this might be entailing.
sure, and that's why.
Right now, there's only one lot and it seems like it,
Yeah, it's kind of a cleanup. Once Weston Avenue goes through, we can get the water and sewer extended down there and it'd be a way to kind of get those lots moving, because even as is, when we put Weston Ave in, I guess maybe that's a decision for somebody else besides myself, but if somebody all of a sudden says, I want to build on this lot, I'm thinking we'd say, well, you have to improve the right of way, you have to do these things, and then does this just keep sitting there for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 plus years? So,
That was a motion?
I would move to defer action to next month until we have a cost estimate.
A second,
No, second.
discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 13. Schofield Avenue, Prentice Bridge Street, Coney Trunk X, reconstruction discussion. Michael, tell us what you find out. I've read your report. 7 and 8. Is that 6 or 7 or 7 and 8? The rating.
oh, it's a 6 to 7.
7.
Yeah, so it's not the worst road in the village, it's not the best road in the village, it's kind of there's a couple sections that are a little rough, which historically we would be looking at doing a full depth slab repairs. And, my guess is we're probably 10 years away from it being at a point where the section between Normandy and Birchcott, where the amount of repairs started exceeding the worthiness of making those repairs. And you're kind of just keep chasing your tail, but not saying that it's not going to be something that we'll see several years down the road. I think Trustee Cronin, when he brought it up, thought maybe there'd be TIF funding available. In talking with Finance Director Troutman, she thinks that might be a stretch. It's not in either TIF. It's not mentioned in either one of the TIF project plans as an area for improvements. So we'd have to justify the kind of the but-for test of how that section is benefiting one of the adjacent TIF districts.
So this is not in the TIF.
It is not in the TIF, it's in the gap right. Correct, yeah. TIF 2 ends on the west or at Birch Street, and then TIF 1 starts at X. So this segment of roadway is in between the two TIF. So,
So I can't divide it between two of them, can we?
no, on the
You're
TIF,
stretching that
yeah,
to the max.
yeah, I mean, realistically, if this is something we wanted to do, we'd probably be better off, getting one of the probably TIF 1 closed here in the next few years. And if we wanted to, we could look at reopening a new TIF along this stretch of roadway and going at it that way.
Okay. So,
But and even at that, there's really not utility needs, so I don't know if at that time we'd be looking at adding, considering some of the landscaping or doing what do I call it, a reduced version of the landscaping.
When is our closure date? The 2028?
2026 is our expenditure period, and then closure is 31, but if we have cash on hand once we have more money on hand than debt hanging out, then the TIF gets closed. So we could close the TIF in 2027 or whatever, 2028, as soon as there's enough cash in hand to pay off the remaining debt.
Can you get the grant for it?
We can apply for grants.
Grant is what, 80, 75?
It depends what cycle. Some grants are 50%, some go up to 80.
So, but with the rating 6 and 7,
It might not be
I was gonna
low
say-
enough. Usually you have to be about a 5, 4 to 5. You gotta be
so still we're not gonna be qualified there.
probably not, yeah.
Because Marathon County gonna rank us first
Yeah,
before you go to DOT, so,
yeah.
okay. What's your wishes?
The first thing I question is, can we make a determination on the TIF question with some,
TIF is not gonna hold, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's
You'd
not
have to
in the
open up
TIF.
a new.
are you, but
It's
are,
not in the TIF.
okay, I know it's not,
Yeah.
but in his background memo, it says unknown fiscal impact, unknown, we really need to look at TIF eligibility.
yeah, I mean,
Or have you?
Jessica's inclination was probably not, I mean, it's at a point where we'd probably need, maybe the attorney to review it and say, okay, if we.
That's where
Yeah.
I've always said, I loved yes and no's, everything else.
Yeah, if I asked Jessica and you were like, yes, no, she'd probably say no, but there's always the maybe, right? Like there's wording where projects are eligible within a half mile of a TIF, but we also have project plans that don't specifically call it out. So we have other projects that get called out specifically, so.
Would you say that's that $3.5 million project?
Yeah, it's a half mile,
Half a mile?
it's a half mile,
Two, maybe.
yeah. I think we're looking at about 6 million for that other stretch that includes 3 signalized intersections. And that's 3/4 of a mile long, half, yeah. So, yeah, probably around 2.5, 3 million.
2.5. Yeah, it's a stretch, I think. Either way. I would say, put it on hold until we get some more information about it at later dates.
Sure.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I can try to get better clarity on the possibility of using TIF 1 monies.
Okay,
And if not, when do you think the road would deteriorate enough we could apply for grants? I know that's a real dart.
That's always the hard part, right? Like we want, especially on these arterial main roadways, we generally don't want to let them get to that point because they are the main roads through our community.
yeah, why don't you put in a contract, when they start construction for that stretch for Normandy, all the traffic has to be from Cam Phillips going west,
Yeah.
so. But,
I mean, I think the roadway, the way it looks now is probably how the other stretch looked like, probably around 2011, 2012. Starting to see some joint failure, but not every panel and.
okay. I don't think we have to make a motion on it.
Yeah, it's fine, you can just.
Is that okay, gentlemen?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So we wait for further information from you, Michael.
Okay.
Item 14, meter pet change order number 1. That's what I was talking about. Okay, who's
Yeah,
gonna explain this?
I can try. So our plan sets for the meter pits were based on older drawings from the early seventies, and so the plans we designed off of, the plans that the contractor had, at least in particular for the Stillwater Landing and the Weston Manor locations were not, well, actually, all three locations, the plans we had did not reflect what actually existed underground. So in two cases, it led to extra work for the contractor where the water main was hit or other utilities were in conflict, causing the contractor to experience extra costs and delays. And then in the Colonial Gardens situation, a pipe we thought we needed to put in actually did exist. So we got a credit for them not having to do that work. So I guess from my background, these all somewhat fit the differing site conditions. It was unknown site conditions that the only way we would have known and to incorporate that in the plans beforehand would have been to dig it up and see what's underground. Our piping was asbestos cement pipe that we can't locate. There's no way to trace it.
That was my question.
Yeah. So-
You beat me to it.
So we couldn't, we didn't even know that, there was a 22 bend in that pipe. We generally go valve to valve. It should be a straight line, not, a water main that bent. So
Did he tell otherwise then?
not the water main, no.
Now I'm all good with it.
Okay, yeah. So realistically, I thought we did go back and forth.
I think,
Yeah, no, that was water main, so.
All right.
I was gonna say, how did they not check that?
Okay,
Now we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'll move to approve change order number 1 for a project increase on net of 11,963.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Future item 13, next meeting, Monday, June 2024 at 4:30 PM. Regular meeting be Monday, August 12, 2024, 4:30 PM. That's also a regular meeting. Item 16, future topic for future meeting. We just have the wastewater treatment plan and also stretch on Schofield Avenue.
Yeah.
All right. Remark from staff, Josh,
I got nothing.
Michael,
No, I'm good.
thank you. Remark from committee members.
I'm good.
Good. Thank you. I have no announcement. This meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen.